Jim, silver is finally starting to move a little bit this week. Silver up about 4% for the week. Is silver finally moving into the spotlight?
I believe it is. I've been long silver for quite a while, and it's been a painful trade. I think it is. Copper broke out of a pretty significant technical pattern last week, and I believe silver's following it today. Now, the way silver's traded has been interesting, and I've been trying to make this argument for a long time, but being right about an argument is different than being right about the price, obviously. Silver has been trading with gold. It's been kind of dead money for about the last 6-7 months. I believe the market was viewing it as a precious and trading it like a precious, and I believe that the $2.5 trillion cryptocurrency market was attracting some of the speculative inflation hedge, fiat currency risk hedge money, and it was leaving gold and silver for dead for the moment. I think that both of those things are going to change, but I think the silver is changing now.
To what degree?
To what degree? I think silver could easily trade back up to 35-ish from where it closed at today, probably around 25. I've been buying it earlier in the week. I think that 22 was the level. Once it came above 22, I think that there's great upside.
Where do you see silver in 12 months' time?
12 times I say it about 35.
$35. And what would you say are the fundamentals pushing silver higher?
So, well, fundamentals only go so far. It's the perception of fundamentals that I think is even more important to me. Silver could easily be grouped in some of the Green New Deal commodities, like copper, for instance. Copper, people are loving copper. We used to associate copper just with the China story and the China growth story. And I think that's changed a lot too. And I think part of that is the fact that copper is involved in the Green New Deal initiative. It's 5 times as much copper is used in an electric vehicle than in a combustion engine. Now, silver is used in solar panels. Silver is used in electric conductivity, which is very, very important in the New Green Deal. Now, I'm going to make this point. I want to make sure you understand it, is that I don't know what amounts are used in solar panel. I don't care. Here's what I care about. I care when the market changes its focus and decides that silver is going to be the flavor of the day, the month, the 6-month period. And I believe that's happening right now, and that's what technical analysis tells me. So I use the fundamental story, and I think the fundamental story is real. And when I say I don't care, I'm being a little bit overdramatic. I do care. But the fundamental story is not as important as the fact that the market comes to this realization at a time and you just try to be ahead of it.
Why do you think that the market is now finally going to come to this realization?
Because of you and my conversation.
No, we do have a lot of viewers on Kiko, but I don't know if we have that many to create
I'm just joking.
Kind of hype, yes.
No, what you do, that's when you rely on your technical analysis to decide when that's happening. And silver had a very interesting pattern that it broke below key support at the $22 level in the silver futures contracts. It spent about a cup of coffee there and then shot right back above it. To me, that was the first signal that was perhaps going to respect that support level, and then it started building a base from there. So to me, that's an indication that my fundamental thesis is being, not my fundamental thesis, the fundamental thesis is being embraced by some, and they're starting to get into silver. And that's the technical and the fundamental go together like that.
All right, so silver is moving into its time to shine.
That's what I believe, time to shine. Thank you for that.
Can't have too many precious metals.
No, not at all.
You mentioned the industrial use of silver as a fundamental that you're not that focused on because you're more focused on sentiment. But on the industrial side, do you see global supply shortages and shortages of chips impacting the demand for silver in its use in electric devices? Do you see that hampering the industrial demand?
Sure, and I think that's part of the reason that silver wasn't doing very well over the last few months. I think that was part of that with the demand story. I think that going forward, and if we really do believe that supply chains are going to be resolved and that production in all different areas of all different things, silver being used for many of those, I think that that's a valid story.
So your premise is that these supply chain issues will be resolved. These microchip issues will be resolved. It's a question.
Of course, everything is transitory, including our lives. I mean, so
you say everything is transitory, and then I have to bring up inflation.
Of course.
Because one of the persistent themes that we're hearing in this conference is that this notion that the Fed is telling us that inflation is transitory, not so accurate. What's your read on inflation?
It's absolute nonsense. So I'll break it down this way. So The Fed continues to say that it's the supply chain disruptions that are causing inflation. The demand story is just as compelling, and the demand is in two separate ways. There's the organic demand that happened post-pandemic from pent-up demand, and there's also the inorganic demand that's been caused by the Fed keeping rates at zero, the federal government just continually injecting money into the system, running up a national debt that's gained $7 trillion over the last year and a half. That's mind-boggling to me. $3 trillion of it went direct to people, direct to the retail, let's call it. 1.6 in direct payments, 1.2 in forgivable loans to small business. They just keep pouring money into the system. The inflation thing, there's one other component of it too that's just starting to happen now. Now, I always rant about modern monetary theory, which is the theory that's been pushed forward by Dr. Stephanie Kelton-Moser. I'm sure everyone talks about it as well too. But one of the key tenets of that too, it's in chapter 6, and it's just brilliant the way it's playing out too. They talk about wages and wage inflations, and they believe it's the federal government's job, as we're coming out of any sort of crisis, to bid for labor and compete with labor, bidding for labor with the corporate sector. It's an easy argument to be made that that's what's happening right now. Things like student loan forbearance, eviction moratoriums, child tax credit, extended unemployment benefits in many states. And I know some of those have expired already, but and talk about just minimum wage raises too. So at the same time, they're trying to bring the wage portion of inflation of it too. And then you have everything. Then you have demand, the supply, the wage, and then you can get into that wage-driven inflation cycle that they seem to have wanted. And when I say they, I'm talking about the Federal Reserve for the last 10 years. And I just would say, be careful what you wish for, because it's insanity to me to let that cat out of the bag when you have zero idea if you can control it or not.
So do you think that the Fed does have the tools to rein this in?
No.
So then what do you do to position your portfolio accordingly?
I have the whole dollar hedge section of my portfolio, which is real estate, platinum, gold, silver, Bitcoin, Ethereum. There's other stuff too that I'm forgetting right now, but these are all, to me, what if things start to get really bad. And then there's different levels. There's trading dollar weakness, and then there's the gather all your stuff, head for high ground because it's really hit the fan sort of trade, and that involves something a lot more serious than just owning paper gold and silver. I have friends, and they used to be crazy preppers who had guns and gold and a house in the mountains. Again, I'm saying that the chance of a cataclysmic currency event are low. I think very low. The dollar's global hegemony is currently not being challenged. So I want that completely out there. However, I think that it's changed greatly over the last couple of years, and the odds of it happening have gone up 3 to 5%.
You do not think that the dollar status as a global reserve currency is in imminent danger?
No. Here's what I think. I think we're pointed directly, with the policies that we have, we're pointed directly at a path that leads to a cataclysmic currency collapse, which is, I like how that sounds, by the way. Now, I'm also saying that that's years and years away, and there's exits all along, and all it's going to take is one sensible adult in the room to take some of these exits. Now, the question is, do we have them? I thought Jay Powell was the guy. He seems reasonable, he seems solid, but the fact that he continues to buy $40 billion a month of mortgage-backed bonds into a housing market that any logical person would tell you is on fire, to me, makes me question his competence.